There are a lot of cartoons that run for years and years, but the characters remain the same age, and the exact same thing happened with Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Inc. gang. However, that really does not mean the gang was never shown in adult or future-like versions. In fact, there have been comics, movies, series finales, and even adult animation parody episodes where we got to see the gang as older, separated, reimagined, or living very different lives. Sometimes they are adults who drifted apart. Sometimes they are survivors in a dystopian apocalypse. Sometimes they end up heading toward a Lovecraftian university future. And sometimes, because animation is wild, Shaggy and Scooby end up in a courtroom parody where their usual behavior is treated like criminal evidence. So in this video, I'm going to explore what happens to the Scooby-Doo gang in different futures. What is their fate? Was it covered in any episode, comic book series, or movie? What happens to them when they get older or middle-aged? So, without further ado, let's begin, shall we? The dystopian comic fate, Scooby Apocalypse. While some Scooby-Doo stories show the gang reuniting after going separate ways, the comic book Scooby Apocalypse goes a step further and introduces the Mystery Incorporated gang with completely different jobs, backstories, and personalities. The interesting thing here is that the gang members do not already know one another as lifelong friends. They come from different walks of life and become friends, or at least allies, in the first issue. But of course, they still have a mystery to solve. So what happens in Scooby Apocalypse? There are a couple of stories in the first issue, and for better context, we will start with the bonus story, the one where Shaggy meets Scooby for the very first time. 3 years before the events of the main comic, Shaggy arrives at a facility that is working on dogs to turn them into super intelligent military-use animals. Shaggy meets Mr. Blatsky, a scientist at the facility, and from their conversation we learn that Shaggy had to sign around 72 non-disclosure agreements and a 200-page contract. But at least he is happy that the job gives him dental coverage. Turns out he is basically a low-rent dog trainer, while the facility produces advanced tech for the military. Shaggy is chosen because he has an extraordinarily high canine IQ, meaning that he shares an empathetic bond with animals, and dogs can relate to him on their own level, almost as if he is one of them. Blatsky even jokes that, given Shaggy's breath, this connection with dogs makes total sense. I do want to point out that Shaggy looks pretty cool in this comic, not like the usual skinny dude we see in many other installments, whether print or screen. Moving on, Shaggy asks Blatsky if there is something he should know about the job, and he learns that the dogs are highly intelligent animals being experimented on as part of the Smart Dog program. They are intended to help the military, but on the flip side, they are not always on their best behavior, and sometimes turn violent. Shaggy's job as this glorified kennel master is to ensure that the dogs are well fed, exercised, and do not eat one another. Now, while the two are talking, someone named Dr. Dinkley walks in like she owns the place. Blatsky explains that she is a bigwig there and that there are things going on in the facility above both their pay grades. But Shaggy takes a liking to Dr. Dinkley, and in his own words, she is kind of cute. Oh, and if you are still unaware, Dr. Dinkley is none other than Velma. After this, Blatsky takes Shaggy to the kennel, but something is going on in there. One of the dogs is being attacked by the other dogs. This unfortunate canine is subject 24602. The original Smart Dog prototype. The results were less than encouraging, so other subjects were brought in and proved more suitable for the program. Unfortunately, the other dogs sense subject 24602's weakness and start harassing him to prove dominance. Blatsky suggests releasing sedative gas to calm them, but Shaggy knows that waiting for the sedatives to take effect would be game over for subject 24602. And to be honest, Shaggy is absolutely correct. The other dogs are way too violent and want to turn the weak dog into dog food. That is when Shaggy enters the kennel and basically pulls a Chris Pratt from Jurassic World. You can see how he handles the violent dogs almost like Chris Pratt handled the raptors in that movie. The similarity is uncanny. Although it is extremely reckless and profoundly stupid, Blatsky is happy with Shaggy's performance and feels they hired the right guy for the job. Blatsky wants to euthanize the recently rescued Great Dane, but Shaggy will not have any of it. He tells Blatsky he will teach the dog how to defend himself, and teach the others to respect him. When Shaggy learns that the other dogs are so violent they could disembowel him, he wants to leave, dental benefits or no dental benefits. But then the rescued dog speaks. Nothing too grand, more like a child muttering something, but he still speaks, and Shaggy's heart melts. How could he possibly leave the company of a dog that could talk? And yes, the dog is none other than Scooby. So that is how Shaggy and Scooby meet in this continuity. But what about the others? Let's move to the main story. As for the plot of Scooby Apocalypse Issue 1, this one basically reboots the entire Scooby-Doo gang as strangers who meet right before the world goes completely sideways. The issue came out in 2016, and DC's wider Hanna-Barbera relaunch positioned Scooby Apocalypse as a radical new version where monsters are no longer people in rubber masks. They are real. Very, very real. So yeah, this is not the usual haunted amusement park business. The main story, Waiting for the End of the World, begins in the Nevada desert, around a festival full of artists, tech people, and general weirdos. Daphne Blake is no longer simply the mystery solver from the old cartoon. In this version, she is a TV personality whose career has gone downhill. She hosts Daphne Blake's Mysterious Mysteries on the Knitting Channel, which means her professional life is not exactly thriving. The thing is, she used to host her show on a different channel and used to be successful, but then her viewership dropped, and she was forced to serve her show on the Knitting Channel at 4 in the morning, when half the world was asleep and only insomniac grandmas were awake watching her show. Grandmas who probably did not even know how to operate a TV remote. Anyways, Fred Jones is still with her as her cameraman and longtime friend. They are at the festival because Daphne has been contacted by someone who promises her a huge story, the sort of story that could rescue her reputation. That mysterious contact turns out to be Dr. Velma Dinkley, the same scientist from Scooby's military research facility known as the Complex. Velma is paranoid, worried, and desperate enough to call in Daphne because she believes something terrible is happening inside the organization she works for. She slips out through an underground entrance near the festival, but because this is still Scooby-Doo at heart, the first meeting does not go smoothly. Fred mistakes her for a mole man and accidentally knocks her out with his camera. So yes, Fred basically attacks and knocks out the whistleblower. Meanwhile, Shaggy and Scooby are also at the festival, and one thing I must tell you at this point is that Scooby is not really his regular self. He wears cyberware that helps him communicate through visual symbols or emoticon-like images. Furthermore, he can sense emotions from far away and is a great empath. So when Velma gets knocked down, Scooby's dog version of spider sense tingles and he immediately runs toward her, with Shaggy trying to keep up. And the reason Scooby was considered a failure was not because he had no intelligence at all. It was because he did not develop the way scientists wanted. His speech and mental level were compared to a toddler, and more importantly, he lacked the violent instinct that the program wanted from a military animal. That would have made him disposable, but Shaggy protected him. Shaggy could see that the poor dog was being mistreated and decided he deserved care and protection. So in this version, Shaggy is not only Scooby's friend, he is also his protector. Scooby's cyberware picks up that Velma is in trouble, so he rushes toward her, with Shaggy following close behind. That brings Scooby and Shaggy into the same place as Daphne, Fred, and Velma. Fred, being Fred again, reacts badly at first and thinks they are under attack. Velma then explains that Scooby and Shaggy are connected to the Complex, so in one messed up desert encounter, the future Mystery Incorporated team finally comes together. They are not childhood friends here and they do not own a van. Not yet, at least. Velma then takes them into the complex and explains that the Smart Dog Initiative is only a side project. The real operation is called Elysium, and in theory it has been created to fix humanity's worst instincts. The idea is to use a tech-based virus or nanite system to reduce things like violence, greed, rage, and war. So the intent is to end conflict and hunger, but Velma has realized the people behind it turned the project into something far more sinister. The scientists behind the virus have darker plans, and Velma believes the project's purpose has been twisted. Instead of saving humanity, the system could make people passive and submissive, allowing the people behind the complex to effectively control the world. Daphne immediately understands how horrifying that is, because peace achieved by stripping people of free will is not peace. The whole thing sounds worse than slavery if you think about it. A slave can still fight and rebel, but someone who has no will left is a living robot. Velma brings them to a safe zone, the bunker-like place that the scientists want to live in after releasing the virus. Velma believes she has time to expose the truth before anything happens. She does not. The virus is activated early. Velma knows that should not have happened yet, which means someone moved ahead with the plan or triggered it without warning. The people inside the safe zone are protected, but outside the facility, the nanite virus begins changing people. Instead of making humanity calm and obedient, it transforms them into monsters. And that is where this issue ends. The rest of the series explores how Scooby and the gang deal with the apocalypse, survive in a monster-filled world, and slowly become a new kind of Mystery Inc. If you want to know what happens next in Scooby Apocalypse, leave a comment asking for the same. If I get even 25 such comments, I will make a full comic book exploration video on Scooby Apocalypse. Moving on. The real-world adult fate, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island begins with Mystery Inc. at very strange points in their lives. The gang has split up because after years of cases, the monsters always turned out to be people in costumes. For youngsters looking for real adventures and real monsters, this got boring. In the end, everyone went on their separate path trying to build a life and future of their own. I mean, at some point, even Scooby and Shaggy just had to feel like, man, I have seen this trick before, and I have unmasked that bad guy before. As for the group itself, Daphne Blake has moved on and become the star of a successful television series, with Fred Jones by her side. Fred serves as her producer and camera operator for a series called Coast to Coast with Daphne Blake. The series is successful enough that it gets renewed, and this time Daphne wants to find real ghosts and haunted houses for her viewers. So basically, Ghost to Ghost with Daphne Blake, if you will. But yeah, as you may expect, Daphne misses her friends, and it has been a while since they hung out together. Fred hears Daphne when she talks about her friends, like really hears her, and the next thing we know, he contacts Velma Dinkley, Shaggy Rogers, and Scooby-Doo so they can reunite for Daphne's birthday. As for Velma, she now owns a mystery bookstore. To be honest, she is not very happy with the gig. In her own words, solving mysteries was easier than selling them. As for Scooby and Shaggy, they work a few odd jobs before getting hired at the airport to sniff out contraband food. Scooby finds the food, but if there is one thing Scooby and Shaggy are known for, apart from getting scared and accidentally solving mysteries, it is that those two love food. Even if it is contraband food that is supposed to be evidence. The two go into the storage room and devour all the confiscated food, which of course leaves their bellies full but gets them fired. These two also get the call from Fred, and they join Velma to meet Daphne and Fred. From there, the gang goes on a road trip across the United States and checks out haunted places for Daphne's series. But once again, every creepy case leads back to fake monsters. Same old business. Same old projections, masks, and tricks. But then things change after they reach New Orleans, Louisiana. There, a woman named Lena Dupree invites them to Moonscar Island, where she works. The island is supposed to be haunted by the ghost of Morgan Moonscar, a pirate whose legend is tied to several disappearances. The gang has doubts, of course, because by this point they have had their fair share of disappointments, but they still agree to go with Lena. On the island, they meet Jacques the Ferryman, Lena's employer Simon Le Noir, Gardner Bow, and local fisherman Snakebite Scruggs, who, by the way, was voiced by the legendary Mark Hamill. Anyway, Simone lives in a large mansion on a pepper plantation, and it is not long before Scooby and Shaggy encounter Moonscar's ghost. But the curious thing is that this ghost later leads them to real zombies. They also receive several ghostly messages telling them to leave, but they still decide to stay overnight. That night, Shaggy and Scooby are chased by a horde of zombies, and Velma suspects Bo, while Fred and Daphne manage to capture one zombie. Fred still thinks it has to be a human culprit, until he pulls its head off and realizes that, nope, the zombie is real. As the horde comes after them, the gang splits apart, and Daphne accidentally causes Fred to lose his video camera in quicksand. So, there goes the proof for her series. Meanwhile, Shaggy and Scooby find wax voodoo dolls in a cave. The dolls look like Fred, Velma, and Daphne, and because this is Shaggy and Scooby, they play with them without realizing they are controlling their friends. Thankfully, although not so much for Shaggy and Scooby, this voodoo business ends when they disturb a nest of bats. I mean, it is possible that even the cave got tired of their nonsense. Then the truth finally comes out when Lena and Simone trap the gang with the dolls and reveal that they, along with Jacques, are werecats. Yeah, cat-like versions of werewolves. Simone explains that 200 years earlier, she and Lena belonged to a group of settlers on the island who worshipped a cat god. When Morgan Moonscar and his crew invaded, they chased the settlers into the bayou, where the others were eaten alive by alligators. Simone and Lena escaped and prayed to their god to curse Moonscar. Their prayer worked, but there was a price to be paid. They became immortal werecats and killed the pirates, only to later realize that their powers came with a curse. Since then, every harvest moon, Simone and Lena have drawn victims to the island and drained their lives to keep their immortality. Jacques helped them in return for the same gift. The zombies and ghosts are not villains at all. They are the souls of past victims who wake up every harvest moon and try to scare people away so no one else suffers their fate. While Jacques chases Shaggy and Scooby, the two disrupt the life drain ritual, giving the gang the chance to free themselves. The werecats surround them, but they realize too late that the harvest moon has passed. Without its power, Simone, Lena, and Jacques turn to dust, and the trapped souls are finally set free. Oh, and it is also revealed that Beau is an undercover police officer sent to investigate the disappearances on the island, and Daphne asks him to guest star on her series. So in this continuity, the gang's adult fate is temporary separation, individual careers, and a reunion that proves they still work best together. This movie basically says that Mystery Inc. can grow up, drift apart, and still find its way back. The Miskatonic Future, Mystery Incorporated. After defeating an interdimensional monster and sending it back where it came from, the gang wakes up to find that the usually dark and haunted Crystal Cove is bright, peaceful, and completely different. Sheriff Bronson Stone and Mayor Janet Nettles are now married and have 4 children. The town's sign no longer calls Crystal Cove haunted. It now calls it the sunniest place on Earth. Danny Darrow is alive. Darrow Mansion is still intact, and it has been turned into a historical landmark. The whole town has been rewritten into a better version of itself. The gang slowly begins to understand that destroying the evil entity erased its influence from history, which means the curse that shaped Crystal Cove no longer exists. Each member discovers how much life has changed. Brad and Daphne find Fred's biological parents, Brad and Judy, alive and normal, with no obsession over traps because they are obstetricians now. Oh yeah, Brad and Judy had previously offered themselves up to the defeated monster in the old timeline. Furthermore, and shockingly enough, Daphne's parents support her relationship with Fred and even help plan their wedding, while Daphne's sisters are no longer the hyper-successful figures from the old timeline. Shaggy learns that he is a celebrated young chef with awards and that he currently serves as president of the Chef Club. Scooby and Shaggy also see that Destroido has been replaced by Creation X, an environmentally friendly company run by Ricky Owens and Cassidy Williams, who are now married and plan to give away their creations at throwaway prices. Professor Pericles, the evil parrot, is alive too, friendly and unscarred as the company mascot. As for Velma, she discovers that she and Marcy Fleech, also known as Hot Dog Water in the previous timeline, are partners in science competitions and win the Tri-State Olympiad of Science every year. Fred then finds out that Fred Jones Sr. is no longer mayor. He is now a soccer coach and school principal, and he gives Fred a disc marked with the Mr. E seal. At this point, Velma puts the pieces together. You see, the gang destroyed the evil entity, and because of that, everything the entity ever influenced has been undone. The world is better, but there is one strange problem for Mystery Incorporated. Without the entity's curse, there are no mysteries in Crystal Cove. But then, Fred receives a recorded message from the new Mr. E, Harlan Ellison himself. In the message, Harlan explains that he remembers the original timeline because he has studied alternate timelines through a subconscious link. The gang slipped through the time stream with him, which is rare. He now teaches subnuclear science at Miskatonic University and has already registered all of them, including Scooby, for his class next semester. Now, Miskatonic University is a pretty big deal in H.P. Lovecraft lore, and this officially sets up the gang's future as lifelong investigators of the strange and occult. Harlan tells them there are still mysteries and meddling left in the world, and the gang leaves to attend Miskatonic University, along with Scooby, who Harlan has also gotten admitted. So if we are talking about the most hopeful future fate for the gang, Mystery Incorporated gives us one of the strongest answers. They do not retire, they do not split forever, they leave Crystal Cove together and move toward a bigger world of mystery. Satirical middle age, adult animation. In Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, the episode Shaggy Busted forces the Scooby-Doo gang into a very adult, very absurd legal mess. To be clear, this is not official Scooby-Doo continuity. It is a Cartoon Network Adult Swim parody crossover, but it is still worth discussing because it shows the gang through a more grown-up, satirical lens. The episode portrays Shaggy and Scooby's usual behavior as if it were actual police evidence. The two are on their way to meet the gang at a cotton mill where a green monster has been causing trouble, but before they can reach the case, a police officer pulls the mystery machine over near a haunted mansion. He says they have been erratic on the road and asks them to step out. Shaggy and Scooby panic and take off, which leads to the officer firing at them before they are arrested. In jail, they end up in a cell with the Ghost Clown, the ghost of Redbeard, and Charlie the Robot. Meanwhile, Fred goes to Harvey Birdman for help after explaining that the gang had been waiting at the cotton mill when the arrest happened. Harvey agrees to take the case, although he tells Fred to lose the colors. When Harvey tries to speak to Shaggy and Scooby at the visitor center, their constant laughter drives him mad at first. The gang explains that this is simply how they are, so Harvey decides to work with what he has. In court, Spyro tries to paint them as guilty through a medieval-style play, and then through supposed evidence. But all the officer has are pizza boxes, eye drops, and Daphne's hairpins. Needless to say, that is not exactly the crime board of the century. Spyro then uses clips from the gang's old cases out of context, while the others still want to catch the monster. In the end, Fred and Velma interrupt the hearing with the creature itself and unmask him as Old Man Backoff. He explains his plan, everyone bursts into laughter, and then Scrappy-Doo arrives, only for Avenger to carry him away. So yeah, as a parody, Shaggy Busted imagines what happens when the Scooby-Doo formula is dragged into adult legal satire. It does not give the gang a serious future, but it does show how their habits look when the cartoon logic is treated like real-world suspicion. Final answer. What is their real future? There is no one true answer. The Scooby-Doo gang has no single permanent future across the entire franchise. In Zombie Island, they grow older, split up, build careers, and then reunite. In Scooby Apocalypse, they are rebooted as strangers surviving a monster-filled dystopia. In Mystery Incorporated, they graduate from Crystal Cove's curse and head to Miskatonic University for bigger mysteries. In Harvey Birdman, they become part of adult animation satire. So what is their fate? Their fate is that they always come back together. Whether they are TV hosts, bookstore owners, failed dog trainers, students at Miskatonic University, or survivors in an apocalypse, the heart of the story stays the same. Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby may grow older, drift apart, or get reimagined completely, but sooner or later a mystery pulls them back into the same orbit. And that is probably the most Scooby-Doo answer possible. They do not have one fixed future. They have many futures. But in almost every version, the gang's real destiny is to keep meddling. So yeah folks, that was all in this one. If you liked the video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Those 2 small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these awesome videos. Stay safe and have a good one.